Hi, I'm Marek Mularczyk from sitetrain.uk and welcome to another episode of PhotoshopLightroomTV. This is episode 59. Thank you for stopping by, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode of PhotoshopLightroomTV. Great Photoshop tutorials. If you have any questions, just let me know. Come to my blog, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk, and post a comment, or go to my website, sitetrain.co.uk, and send me an email. Let me start this week's episode with a tutorial in Photoshop. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crop the image in Photoshop, but keep the aspect ratio. Let's say you have an image and you want to crop some areas within the image, but you want to keep the same aspect ratio. So that's what we're going to do in Photoshop. I'll be using Photoshop CS5. So let's jump into Photoshop. Hi, let's talk about cropping the image in Photoshop, but keeping the aspect ratio. So let's say I want to crop this image here, but I want to keep the aspect ratio. I want to keep it at the same width and height ratio. So I'm definitely going to use the crop tool. Okay, there's the crop tool here. But how do I know how to keep the aspect ratio? The only options I have here are width and height, resolution in the properties, in the options bar. And I don't really know width and height, even though I may know the size of the image, so I could go to image size. I don't really know the pixel dimensions. Now I could type something here, like let's say 800, so I'll know I'll crop to 800 by 600. But what if I want to, well, I actually want to do something different here. I want to crop the image. I don't want to resize it, I want to crop it. So I'll cancel that, and here's what I would do. I'm going to first click and drag over the entire image to select it, just like that. Okay? And now I'm going to hold the Shift key on my keyboard and start dragging one of the corner handles. Okay? And this keeps the aspect ratio on the image. I can click and drag to reposition it. As simple as that. Yeah. And when you're done, you just click on it, and the image keeps the same aspect ratio. As simple as that. So here's the quick trick in Photoshop. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Photoshop. The next tutorial I've got for you is in Lightroom, so something different. Of course, the show is Photoshop Lightroom TV, your weekly video podcast about anything Photoshop, Lightroom, Bridge and photography. Here's what we're going to do in this tutorial in Lightroom. I've got an image with a car on the image, and I want to, I don't want to display the registration number, registration plate on the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use Lightroom and Photoshop to blur the registration plate so it doesn't show up on the image, using Lightroom and Bridge together, using Lightroom and Photoshop together. Okay. Might be a very useful tip for hiding, blurring the registration plates on the images. So let's jump into Lightroom and then into Photoshop. I'll be using Lightroom 3 and Photoshop CS5. Let's have a look at it. Here I am in Lightroom, and this time I want to create a selective blur effect on the image. I want to keep one of the areas on the image in focus and then blur all the rest. Now, something that's really difficult to achieve, and if not impossible to create in Lightroom. So I'm going to use Lightroom and Photoshop together. I'll start in Lightroom. I'm going to select the image to be used here. I'll use, let's see, either this one, or let's start by comparing to choose the best image to use. So I'm going to select these two images, and I'm going to compare them here in the library module to see which one to use. I'm going to use this one here. It's got better perspective. So I'm going to select this image here. Hello. Okay. And I'm going to choose Photo, Edit in Adobe Photoshop CS5. I'm going to edit it in Photoshop. Now when the image opens in Photoshop, I'm going to blur it and use a layer mask. I'm going to use the same color space. I'm going to keep that. Let's make it full screen. Let's make the image bigger. Okay, so here's this image here. Now I'm going to convert the image into a smart object. So I'm going to double click on the background layer, just press OK, and then right click on it and convert to smart object. Because now I can apply one of the blur filters non-destructively and add a layer mask at the same time. That's one of the reasons why I'm converting this image to a smart object, this layer. Let me just get rid of this one here. Now I'm going to apply a filter. So the filter, blur, let's do Gaussian blur. Okay. I'll increase the value to make it really blurry. Let's make that around 15 pixels. That looks just about right. I'll just press OK. Now it appears here. So now I'm going to edit the layer mask that appears next to smart filters. I'll click on the layer mask to highlight it first, and I'm going to apply a gradient. So I'll select the gradient tool. I'll use the black and white gradient. Okay. In this case, my foreground and background colors are black and white, so I'll select foreground and background. Then I'll use the reflected gradient here. Normal opacity 100%. Okay. And I'm going to click and drag on the image. This is actually the other way around because it's white to black, so I'm going to reverse it and then just click and drag. Okay. This area is in focus, the rest is blurred. Let's reapply that. Okay, to define what should be in focus. Okay, so the backspace key and insert key are in focus, the rest is blurred. Now let's increase the value for the blur. So I'm going to double click on the Gaussian blur filter and crank it up. Maybe that's too much. Well, let's do something around 30 pixels. Now just press OK. And now I'm going to jump back into Lightroom. So I'm going to close Photoshop, save the changes, yes. I'm saving the file in Photoshop. It's all non-destructive. I'm not changing the original file. The original is a raw image, CR2 file. Okay. And in just a moment, I'll be back in Lightroom. And here I am back in Lightroom. Photoshop closed down. I'm back to Lightroom. I can see the image here in the library module, and it appears next to the original as a copy here. Okay? That's how you create selective blur with Lightroom and Photoshop together in companion. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in Lightroom and Photoshop on blurring the parts of the image. Now it's time for the tip of the week. Last week I promised you a tip of the week. This tip of the week will be a photography tip of the week. Let's say you somewhere outdoors and you've got a beautiful landscape, you've got a beautiful sunset or sunrise, something beautiful, and you take an image of it. Now just to make sure you get a beautiful image, and so you can still tweak it a bit in Lightroom or in Photoshop, take a number of shots of the same scene. Because you know, sometimes the image should be overexposed or underexposed. So what you can do is you can bracket, if you use a SLR camera. Many cameras nowadays allow you to bracket the image, so it will take 3 or even 5 images with different exposure settings. Or otherwise, what you can do is just go to the manual mode on your camera and bracket manually. Take one image that's set up properly, then overexpose one stop, underexpose one stop, overexpose 2 stops, underexpose 2 stops. And then see which image looks best and which image you can start with in Lightroom or in Photoshop. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tip of the week, photography tip of the week. And this is the end of this week's episode of PhotoshopLightroomTV. Thank you for watching, thank you for stopping by. I'm Marek Mularczyk from SciTraining.uk, one of the UK's leading specialists in Adobe Certified training. For more information about Adobe Certified courses, go to SciTraining.uk. Remember about my blog, PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk, where you find latest tips, tricks, techniques. I'm posting daily, Monday to Friday. And next week, I'll see you on the next episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.